industry, and what's it going to take for EVs to really take hold. And through those discussions, as well as other discussions that I've been having, as well as a firm we've been having with stakeholders, there's really two key themes that have surfaced or come up from that. The first is that what is really different today? We've seen electric vehicles, they're not new. Electric vehicles have been around for 50 and 100 years. So why haven't they worked, and why do we think it's going to work now? And the first reason for that is that there's a significant amount of momentum, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then the other one, which Greg alluded to some of the challenges, is the developing ecosystem around the electric vehicle. So those are the two broad themes that we're hearing consistently from the key stakeholders. Now a little bit more about momentum. What's different now? Why is there so much momentum behind this? And the first is that this is truly a global effort. This isn't a just California-centric activity like it was 20 years ago with the EV push in California in the 90s. This is truly global. Every auto manufacturer around the world has an EV strategy of some sort. Most of them have cars that are nearing production, if not already in production. So it's much different this go around. There's clearly global involvement in this. And why is there global involvement? Well, I think you can really point to companies here in California, some of the companies you see represented out there, as well as companies that aren't here, companies like Fisker and Koda, which are also here in California, that have really done innovation to really push the movement, push the activities, and really demonstrate that you can create an electric car that is attractive, that had a reasonable range, and that was practical. The other piece that Greg kind of alluded to is consumer interest and the demand. Are the consumers really interested in an electric vehicle? We've done a number of studies, and what we're finding out is yes, they are. You know, the study we did, it was a global study survey, really found that this number is going to sound small. 5% of the people that were surveyed indicated they would definitely buy an electric vehicle when they came to market. And you're thinking 5%, Matt, that's nothing. Well, if you put that in perspective of how many individuals have a driver's license in the U.S., that equates to about 10 million vehicles. And as Greg alluded to, the current production of the auto manufacturers, they can't even get to the 1 million vehicles by 2015 at the current pace. So the consumer side of it, I think, is not really as big of an issue as many people think. There is demand, there is interest, if you can make a car that really fits all the key parameters. And there's still some concerns. I'm not saying that those 5% are going to go out and buy whatever comes on the market and whatever cost. There's still limitations, but those can be worked through. The other is the stakeholders' perspective. So what are the stakeholders saying? Well, what we're hearing is that the stakeholders also believe that there's a huge opportunity here. You know, there's lots of different predictions in terms of when will there be mass adoption of the electric vehicle. What we're hearing, the folks we're talking to, and what we're seeing, the data is showing is up to 25% of new cars sold will be electric vehicle of some sort, maybe a plug-in hybrid, maybe a pure electric vehicle by 2020. So that's 10 years from now. Now again, a lot of challenges to work through to make that a reality, but the market potential is there to support that. The second piece around momentum is collaboration amongst key stakeholders. You're clearly going to get to see that this afternoon with the panels that CleanTech OC has put together. The collaboration that's happening, collaboration between the utilities, the local governments, the regional governments, to try and really work through all the key issues to make it a painless process, I guess, for the consumers to really work through and purchase a car and make it a pleasurable experience and an effortless experience. And there are several organizations, specifically SoCal EV, that I'm not from Southern California, but I've based my research on this local market. They have set up objectives that clearly outline what some of those key objectives are, some of those key issues and hurdles, which Greg alluded to one of those, and that is the charging infrastructure. Even if you're a consumer, you're going to charge your vehicle at home, there's permitting you have to go through to get that. And that's one more hurdle to buy an electric vehicle that, it's different from buying a combustion engine vehicle. So there are many challenges like that, and we're seeing a significant amount of collaboration by the key stakeholders. Are they done? Are we done with the collaboration? Absolutely not. There's still a lot to work through, a lot to do, but they are talking, which is, I think, the critical piece. The third component of momentum is really around development of technology. If we look back over the last 10 to 20 years, there's been significant developments around technology. Not necessarily the car itself, but a lot of the infrastructure that goes into the car, and more macro, from a broader technology perspective, significant advancements in technology. And a couple of them, just to point out, is battery technology. Batteries get a lot of focus around their cost, the density of the batteries, and so forth. But if we go back 10, 20 years, there have been significant advancements in battery technology over that period of time. The other example is the ecosystem around the car and technology. We think about smartphones. A lot of the new cars, the Leaf as an example, the Volt, there's a lot of ability to interact with your vehicle with your smartphones. 10, 20 years ago, the smartphone was not a commonplace device. And today you have the ability to have that phone that can communicate back and forth with the car to give you information around how much battery do you have left, when do you need to recharge it, where can you recharge it. So it's enabling the consumer to actually have a car and be able to work it in the broader sphere. So to summarize the first point, there's really significant momentum around the electric vehicle and the evolution of the electric vehicle. And it's three-pronged. It's one, there's global involvement this time. There is collaboration amongst the key stakeholders, and then there's been clearly significant advancements in technology. The second key theme that we're hearing from the stakeholders in our conversations is the developing ecosystem. And what do I mean by an ecosystem? Well, it's the value chain to get to an electric vehicle. What are all the componentries that go into an electric vehicle? Many of those are different than a combustion engine vehicle. On our board back there, we kind of give a pictorial diagram of what that value chain looks like. And that's evolving, that's developing. Many of the technologies were existing, but it's trying to get those to scale in the manufacturing process. The other element of the value chain is what I'll call aftermarket. So once the consumer has purchased the car, the whole macro environment to operate that car, it's still not there for it to be supported. And the key focus there is clearly the charging infrastructure. So, in our conversations with stakeholders as well as surveys we've done of the consumers to get a feel for what are their concerns, there's really three principal concerns around the ecosystem very broadly. The first is the charging infrastructure. Where am I going to charge my car? The second is around the batteries, the battery range, the so-called range anxiety. Am I going to have enough battery to do what I need to do in that given day? And the third is price. So the charging infrastructure. There's several views on what is the right model for the charging infrastructure. There's some that have the view that it needs to be similar to today's gas stations. We need to have a broad infrastructure of charging stations throughout the environment to be able to stop quickly and recharge my car. And there's multiple levels of charging infrastructure with level 1, 2, and then 3 with fast charging. And so what's the right mix? There's a lot of issues to work through with that. The other view is that the charging is going to happen in the home. That the infrastructure to some degree already exists. We already have electricity running to our home. Pull your car in the garage, you plug it in. You don't need an infrastructure beyond that. We believe there's really a combination of both. And the range anxiety is really the next point, and that is with the batteries. What's the right answer in terms of the range of the battery? Should it be 40 miles? Should it be 100 miles? Should it be a plug-in hybrid with an extended range? Should it be a pure battery? And I believe that there's going to be a mix of that, or we're seeing there's a mix of that developing. It's some interesting data that GM just released on the Volt last month was the average amount of time that the Volt owner is taken before they actually go and refill the car. As we all know, the Volt is actually an extended range vehicle and can be operated on gas, on electricity. When the batteries run out, there's an engine to backfill that electricity need. And the Volt owners are now traveling roughly 1,000 miles in 30 days before they refill the tank, which is clearly showing that individuals are taking advantage of charging the vehicle in their homes, and the range anxiety is not as big of an issue, which is really supported by all the surveys that show the average American drives less than 40 miles a day, which is why many of the initial cars are a roughly 40-mile range vehicle. And then that leads me to really the third concern that consumers have raised, and that is the price. This is clearly one of the biggest challenges, one of the issues that stakeholders are working on, and clearly one of the things that the stakeholders are working to try and figure out, and the governments, I think, can initially play an interesting role in, both from incentives, which the US government and the state of California have done, providing incentives to purchase electric vehicles and plug-in vehicles. But maybe even more importantly, the trend we're seeing is governments and large corporations that operate large fleets, that they're actually looking at converting their existing fleets into some form of electric vehicle. And part of that's driven by, when you look at total cost of ownership, or when these companies and governments are looking at total cost of ownership, it is actually a compelling argument for them to make the switch to an electric vehicle. So as we see governments and adopting this from the fleet, that's going to allow the scale of production to go up, which naturally will help to reduce costs. The other point is technology. I mentioned this earlier. There's been significant developments in technologies, and I think that we will continue to see that. There are several companies, going back to the battery element of this, there are several companies here in California that are working on technologies around battery that actually will reduce the cost of batteries by about 30 to 40%, by simply changing some of the ingredients in the battery, which increases the density. So either you need fewer batteries, or you can have the same amount of batteries, but you'll have a greater range. So there's clearly a lot of opportunities for technology to continue to play a key role in advancements of technology. The other element, I think, is evolving business models. That's the other element we're seeing, and that's an output, I think, of the collaboration that's happening amongst the key stakeholders, is they're identifying new business models. Retailers looking at this as an opportunity to attract potential customers, whether that's hotel chains, they're looking at putting in a charging infrastructure in their chain to attract customers with electric vehicles to stay at their locations, or a retailer that just believes that long term that this is something they're going to need to have to attract a customer base. So in closing, to turn this over to the panel discussions, we really believe that we are at the dawn of the age of the electric vehicle. There are two key themes that are really evolving out there. One is that there is tremendous amount of momentum behind this. We're seeing a developing ecosystem. We're seeing the collaboration of the key stakeholders. And there is just tremendous opportunities, which also bring challenges for us to see the development of new business models as a result of this. With that, thank you very much for allowing me to come up today, and I'll turn it back over to Craig.